this light. P.E.A.C.E. All right, welcome to another fun-filled week. I mean that in all its sardonic nature. See some P.E.A.C.E. Saladin. Saladin is just throwing out the questions immediately. I'll be honest with you. There are always classes where the week gets ahead of me and I don't get to prepare with the quality that I would like. You know what I mean? For all you teachers out there and educators, this is where you've done all the best studying you can, though, so you could be prepared. A little problem with the mouse. It's just not a pain in the ass right now. But word 60, peace. You know, and I know it's a little repetitive, but if you have a righteous name that is not like your username and stuff, that is different, or what, not many on the stream, that's a good DBO. When you look up videos online and the general consensus about training and what days to train, the general consensus is also is really throwing it back at the person, and they just throw a lot of variables. You know, they throw a whole bunch of variables at people, and they say, "Listen, if you do this, do that, and the other." So it's really about what you're doing. Okay, so I think I know what the problem was with my mouse, is that the battery is no good. The battery is returning to the essence slowly. Let's see if I can... I'm just asking for 3 more hours here, right? But, let's see. Since I saw it, Saladin, you said, do you think that the protests are what helps charge? All right, there's a lot to say about the protests, so I'm going to let that pile up for a little bit. I love that brothers are on here, class on time. There are a lot of emails I didn't get to send out. I actually was trying to do that at the 6 o'clock hour. And Yazid, I hope I'm saying that correctly, I was answering your email because there were a lot of questions and a lot of materials to send you, and I just have them attached. And I just sent that out to you. So there was one other question that I'm gonna that you asked. I don't know if the brothers, here or in the classroom right now, but I'm gonna address the question. One of the questions that I said that I wouldn't, it would take too long to answer online, so I'm gonna, answer there. But it looks like it's all. Let's see. I might be a little bit slower because my mouse is just really being uncooperative. So. But yeah, I've done. The thing about it, though, is when you prepare things, you want to prepare in 2 ways. This also counts for the creative mind. You're really preparing in 2 ways. Understand that you're creating, and by preparing in the mind, and then also, a lot of people don't really get out of the preparation in the mind and how to actually get it out of the mind and into the page, or onto the creative platform, whether the easel, whether the page, whether the recorded audio, whatever you're doing. The thing is to be prepared on some type of level, right? Okay. Yeah. Oh, definitely word 60, definitely. As a writer, as an author, before I got the knowledge of self, the word has always been important. Let me finish answering DB 089's question about how many days I train. Because I don't have heavy weights, though, I've gotten to training. I was training for the past couple of months, 6 days a week. I'm going to get my heavy weights back soon, but I cut it down to 5 because I'm going to start doing sprints. And coupled with the intensity of the workout that I created to challenge my upper body with resistance bands, a whole bunch of different type of resistance bands, and heavier weights like 30 pound, 25, which is hardly the heaviness that I'm looking for. Then couple that with the weighted steps for the thighs, for your squats, weighted squats, all of these things. Then adding the sprints on it. So basically, what happens is I'm doing an 8-minute jog to the area, the hill that I sprint up. Then I'm doing sprints, 5 sprints on a very tall, steep hill. And then I'm coming back to 8-minute jog. So then after that, I do Kung Fu. So usually what would happen is that I would do the 8-minute jog to the park area, which is really a fort here in Staten Island. Then I would do the sprints, and then I would do Kung Fu out there in the open space and practice Kung Fu for about 20 minutes. And then I would jog back, okay? As I get all my materials, like my Wing Chun dummy, then I would be doing 10 minutes in the park, just practicing techniques and then jogging back. So there's a lot more cardio, intense. The HIIT training of those sprints is really the key. So that forces me in a good way to reduce the workout to 5 days a week, because the more intensity that I'm putting onto the workout, especially when I get my heavier weights back, I want like days to recuperate. So for me, I like to take the day off. One of the days off on the 5 days a week is when I do my 36-hour fast, because I work out in the morning. So if I do a 36-hour fast from that complete day into the next day up to 12 o'clock, what would happen is I have a morning workout on the fast day, and then the day that the fast ends at 12 p.m., I will be working out that morning. So it's 2 intense workouts fasted, which for me, I have them. But the heavy training, I also want to be efficient. I just don't want to do all that and then have to sleep like a million hours. I want to be able to, play with my children, build with my children, and also read and write and do all the other things that I'm trying to do. So that doesn't, that doesn't really help. You know what I mean? But the fasting day, the complete fasting day, if I don't take that as a day off, I still have a really intense fasted workout the morning before, because I break it at 12. So I give myself that challenge, though, and I can go all out, though. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the week, I like to take that I've gotten into taking it Sunday. You know what I mean? And just work on my writing and reading and using that extra time to really read more. But that's how I do it, though. I think that when people start with 3 days a week or 4 days a week, that's because you're not training much. If you train like short, intense 30 minutes, you do that every day. Some of my training workouts are really like that. My training workout is an hour and 40 minutes. So I can take, if I take just the slightest distraction, it'll take 2 hours. So they're really long, hard workouts, because there are so many things that I want to do and build up, and then I enjoy doing them. So the extra day off is good for muscle growth. So you go and so usually it ends up being 5 days a week. Especially if you're using heavy weights, you want to take quality days off. Right? Okay. All right, Saladin, I didn't forget your question about the entire George Floyd situation and this rioting and looting and all that. I'm going to build on it. Word 60. Yeah, this culture is definitely based on the word. You know what I mean? Right? Definitely, and that's how I created my name as a writer, and was thinking about it and was supported because the God that brought me to the school and sparked me was Day Sun. And Day Sun is an incredible writer, one of the most published, you know. So, the writer culture is certainly part of the culture. That's why there's so many great MCs that are 5%, because writing and the word is part of the culture. I'm about to answer one of the questions that I see there, but I'm trying to copy and paste the ones that I have so I don't lose it. Peace, Jasim. Peace, YSU. Peace, Musalik. Fly phrase, Sirius. Peace. All right. 7, 8 there. I like the way you add the others. So we'll call them the others. Fly phrase 401. Do you train students in Qi Kung? I'm going to keep it real. I know how to train Kung Fu. I know how to train the arts, and I can teach you to train to build your body and fight, and also really get you to training with another teacher that has done it longer than me. So I could be a stepping stone or someone that teaches you how to really live it out. As far as Qigong, I'm still a young student in that. So I've learned how to use my Qi, I've learned how to direct it, but being able to educate on it fully the way other Qigong masters have is probably something that I can't teach fully. I can only give you a beginner's, to me, and I've been training on this for almost 20 years. It's certainly 20 years, and I don't see myself as one that could really teach about Qigong to that highest level. Wing Chun certainly, and the students that I have that I teach, the ones that I see that are making sure that they're athletically ready, right? I like, if I say, you got to be able to do 50 push-ups, you've got to be able to put that out, like you can't waver. And then also reading the materials that I find crucial, the science of breath, studying that, the philosophical texts that to me go into the mindset, like Bruce Lee's Tao of Kung Fu, absolutely The Art of Peace, right? I have it here because I'm going through it again. Every year I go through it at least once, right? The Art of Peace, which is probably my favorite book. The Tao Te Ching, others. There are certain books I like you to read if I train you, particularly on the martial arts. That's real peace, serious. That it was a peaceful march and good, right? And you're very welcome, Debo. I understand that all of you I consider students here, so my email is open for you to contact me and anything like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think sometimes with the ego with martial arts is that people don't want to tell you what they don't know how to do great or what they don't. You know what I mean? I think if people train with me, they'll see somebody that's physically athletic and gifted, and then also I can teach you how to overcome a lot of resistance because I'm at this height. I'm 5'4". I'm in the 135 pound range. You know what I mean? So if I'm able to do all this, though, there's a lot of resilience and agility and that I can teach you. You know what I mean? But I'm still learning myself. This really is. This knowledge itself and all of its arts are really a lifelong process. Let's see what we have here. You might see my finger and stuff because I've got to use the touch screen because the mouse is being real petty with me. Yeah, so this will probably be a thing we continue to build on. So there's no need to wait. You know, we have a couple of people in the site for a good amount. You know what I mean? 2 handfuls. Do you think that the protests are what helped change the officer's charges from 3rd-degree to 2nd-degree? Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. You know, I never, protesting works though. You're asking people to do something. We should always have a problem with that. But at the same time, though, we're all living in a society, so there are demands that we have the right to make, and that means that whether we vote or not, we have voting. Voting is one way to make your demand, but as a citizen of any nation, you have the right to make a demand in any other way. You know, as most of you either not, if you are young or you are not, you are all geared toward the young, because I'm asking all of you that are older to always be looking to find that young person you are teaching. So if you have children, you have students. So this is teaching you to be a teacher to those students. You want to teach your young to be able to engage in all levels of participation, in all levels of the fight. You know what I mean? There's no way we can sit here and think that Biden is an actual savior to anything. But the truth is that you need that practice of voting for, if you've never done it, if you've never studied it, if you've never decided it was all a ruthless system, you weren't wrong about that. But you'll never know. I always have you on the vantage point of king, right? Meaning not in the alphabet, right? Test all used, right? In the alphabet, what number letter is that? Okay, so we got more people in the group. Right? This would be like Jeopardy, though. So when we run out of seconds in here, when we drink this. Then I'll answer. But that's right, Fletcher. Thank you. The 11th letter in the alphabet, right? So I have always said, this is my understanding, right? Right? That's right, YC. Right? We have knowledge. Thank you, YC, right? Because you give me a segue I was looking for, right? Jarrell, thank you. Right? Knowledge, right? So when I thought about that, it's knowledge, all being born to wisdom, right? 1 is knowledge, 2 is wisdom for everybody, right? So they well, what is a king, though? And a king is someone, this is my understanding, a king is someone with knowledge of himself, and knowledge of people's needs, hopes, or the wisdom to lay all that peacefully in the society he leads. Right? In other words, right? The wisdom is that way. He knows the way because he's doing the knowledge to himself. He's done the knowledge to himself, and he's done his knowledge to people. Right? Why is that important? And we're thinking our kings, but if all of us are the true and living God, that means that there are sectors where we're all kings. You just don't know it. You don't know your impact. You're not looking at your impact. These are things you should look at and question in your journal writing. You should look at what is your impact. If you don't see your impact, then what happens is that you have to prepare yourself to have this impact. Not to go get the impact, but prepare for when the scenario occurs. Right? Peace, Real Hip Hop 216. Now, how do we do this, though? If you remember in the Justice Bill, right? I'm just going to open it from my own files instead of my crusty constitution like papers here. If you remember when I told you in the Justice Build, right, that there were things in here to study, right? All of these various things to study and to be aware of and constantly do the knowledge to, you know what I mean? And that is one thing. You cannot be you don't want to be imbalanced with things. And you have to constantly look for your imbalances, because the constant imbalances in what you know and don't know are exactly where you find the beliefs that you are relying on, okay? And that's why you have to constantly be doing the knowledge, right? And the reason I say that is because when you, one of the aspects in the Justice Build, right, was, I'm trying to see what number it was. That's why I really called this up. I couldn't figure out which one it was. Yeah, today's reality was one of them, number 6. But also, my apologies. I'm getting confused with my own stuff. I'm talking about the justice curriculum. That's why I didn't find what I was looking for here. Look at that, Sunez. In the justice curriculum, which is the different subjects I told you to start with, right? These 10 subjects to have that balance. One of the ones that I wrote that it seemed obvious was news, right? And we're watching all this news and stuff like that, right? But also to have a discerning eye in the news, right? But here's the thing. What I also meant, though, was to be a king when you watch the news, right? When you watch the news, what you want to do is be looking at, like, not so that this particularly, in this case, so you could do it easily all day and you'll score points saying, oh, Trump did this wrong, he did this wrong, that guy did this wrong. The way I want you to also analyze the news is not just as your vantage point as the people, right, which you should never lose track of. This is almost the same as losing track of how it was to be 85, how it was to be blind, deaf, and dumb in particular areas, which most we're talking about most relates to the knowledge of self, but could be anything. But what I really mean, though, is when we look at the leaders that we're dealing with today, are you looking at things not just from the people's angle, how this affects people, how they're doing people dirty and whatnot, right? The also angle is what is or what would be the reality of my own decision. So we say, look, he shouldn't have done that, he should have done this. But in your mind, you say, is it actually possible to do that? What would happen? And I have been stressing people to do that, not just with presidents we didn't that we didn't expect anything from, but also the presidents that we expected things from, which, of course, number one on that list was Obama, right? So not to make excuses or to absolve anyone, but what I'm saying is, like, if we couldn't do what we wanted, if we could do what we wanted Obama to do, right? Or Obama to do this, I would do it this way. He needed to do this. You also have to think of your builds as a king. Like, what would you actually do? How would you actually engage, right? Because in all leadership, you see it from, if you study Fidel's work, and especially Fidel's biographical work, right? Fidel Castro, My Life, right? Get it in so everybody knows what I mean. Right? You realize that with every type of leadership, whether it's under the system that you see is correct, whether you see no system is correct, but some more humane or possible for humanity than others, you always have the decisions to make where some will suffer due to the decisions that you make. And that's something that we don't realize looking at things only as the people. Of course, that spells our humanity. We have something that people lack. We're looking at things as humanely as possible. But what also has to be seen, though, is what would I do if I was ruled? And if I made this sweeping change, who would I sacrifice? Right? Who would be sacrificed? Like, they actually do the knowledge, because there is no policy, no matter how righteous you think it is, that doesn't sacrifice someone. So I want you to have that discerning eye and think about things. Don't let Trump dissuade you from that exercise and just say that everything he does is evil, this and that, because everything he does could be evil. But then you have to analyze with someone where you say everything he does is evil, let's say, right? Then you also want to ask questions, what could be the possible reasoning and the fruitfulness in doing this? Or do you think that this is more error or cunning? You see, because you also analyze yourself if you just come up with your own opinions. A lot of that is opinion. You couldn't really prove it. But the practice of judging and being aware of your particular opinions is also a lesson in doing the knowledge. Okay? We have to do that quickly. We have to engage in these exercises now. Right? Because if we don't live out our culture, right, today's math, then what are we doing? Right? How are we wasting time? So, Saladin, I hope that starts to answer the question. I do bear witness that unfortunately, everything led up to it. Everything, the protests, the disobedience, even the looting and the rioting, they all did something. The truth is, even the negative actions have some repercussion, right? And so, we can't always say that something that is not positive didn't yield some kind of result. You know what I mean? But it also goes to show you that this institution intends to stay this way in some kind of respect. There is no other way for the people to stay their distance, to not be inspired to do all that they can. You know what I mean? To stay in their place, though. And you got to understand that in all ruling societies in the westernized history, there always is something that the people suffer through. And this is all societies, black, brown, yellow, and white, in the Western world, that have been instituted to keep people at bay. You know what I mean? Or what kept them in the feudal societies in their giant castles, and literally castles, while the people are in huts. It wasn't just like Downton Abbey and the respect and the lore of the ruling and the wonderful beauty of royalty, or assumed royalty, right? It definitely wasn't just that. Right? So part of this in getting the knowledge itself is also the responsibility that you have to the human families. You know what I mean? And how to deal with that. You know what I mean? And the difficulties in teaching all of the human families. You know what I mean? When we learn about Musa in 120, and you read other things that Elijah Muhammad talked about blowing up the devils because they couldn't be taught. You know what I mean? And then you wonder about the difficulties of teaching all of our people, because they come from all these different places and have different types of conditioning. You know what I mean? So all of this becomes a real issue. You know what I mean? And what I don't want is, I want people to have a revolutionary mindset that looks at life as worthwhile. That you don't want to just martyr yourself because you have a life of guiding the youth the whole time. You know what I mean? You can live a righteous revolutionary life, though, and not just return yourself. We don't need martyrs like that. You know what I'm saying? yes, you could be willing to return and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Right? But I'll tell you from experience, the babies don't need that kind of build anymore. You know what I mean? We're literally dealing with a martyr, right? An unwilling martyr, right? But oftentimes the willing and the unwilling martyr hold the same place. You know, and that's the problem. You know what I mean? And not just today, but I spent a lot of these last couple of days talking down brothers from being totally violent and militant, and going out there and just breaking shit up and things like that. And you know, I could give the example of the father and how he took the young guards and walked through Harlem and stopped the riots in Harlem after Martin Luther King was killed. Remember, they were already in Harlem riots years before, so they were ready to do it again. And yet he was able to stop that. Why? Because they respected the presence that they had. Okay? And it wasn't a physical beat you down presence, although in some respects it might have been. But it really was is that if we don't do this stuff and we listen to them, we're also going to get help. We're also going to get community involvement. So what I'm saying is, like, I don't find it a complete revolutionary act to just go out there and protest and all those. Those are particular actions. Protesting, and of course rioting and looting, those are actions. Okay, those are actions. Those are events. You know, and you need to treat them as a revolutionary. You need to treat them like weather. Like the Tao says, how long can a rainstorm last? You know what I mean? They always end. But the work of a revolutionary isn't supposed to end. Okay? The thing is that one thing about youth is that you're tired because there's supposed to be an ending. The thing about the AIDS revolutionary is that you know that there really is no ending to this. You know what I mean? We could talk about revolutions all we want. But I want you to study, when you study things like a king, like I told you, right? What happened after the Haitian Revolution was successful? Doesn't mean that the Haitian Revolution didn't need to happen. But what is the science after the revolution happened, right? What led to Haiti then paying reparations? What led to them still being an independent republic that still has to pay reparations to their oppressor? You see what I'm saying? Or the fallout of having to deal with the fallout of being that revolutionary leading country, right? The repercussions of things, the lifelong revolution. These are things to understand. Studying the Cuban Revolution, right? And how aspects of it has dissipated with things that we don't even think are that brutal. But the water droplets, what I like to call the water droplets of bureaucracy, destroying it, right? Jad, you're definitely right about the Haitian revolutions. The Haitian, excuse me, I said revolutions, but the Haitian Revolution. And that is one aspect, right? And if you read the Black Jacobins, I don't know if I have this book digitally. I'm gonna look really quick now. If I have it, it's on like a, you know, disgustingly gigantic PDF. But I may have the Black Jacobins. But that's really the book you want to begin with if you're reading about the Haitian Revolution. One of the best, most important political histories that you will read. We say the mulatto class betrayed them, but I would say that is an incorrect choice of word because the mulatto class was never on their side. Okay, so that's a better way of explaining it. Right? You can't betray what you never were down with. You know what I mean? Like, they never really were with the people. So, you know, they just showed themselves. You know what I mean? What I would say also, what I'm saying what hurt our people in the Haitian Revolution is that a lot of us are ready to destroy, but we don't know what to build. You know what I mean? I've always said this. You know, I've had gang members, all that kind of stuff from everywhere. And say, yo, we got to destroy the system, Sunez. Let's go, you know, change this. Let's get rid of everything. Let's destroy. And then we get rid of all the white folk. Then we'll have, you know what I mean? First of all, the way we deal with colorism, y'all don't even know who white folk are. I bet you half of the people you kill will be black folk. Seriously. Y'all don't even know who's black. So I don't want most of the 85 going out there doing revolution on that level. You know what I mean? Besides it being disgusting and gross, because we would be starting a utopian reality based on the same type of devilishment that got us here in the first place. Right? It's all it's all peace though, because it's all recorded though. I'd probably lambast you more if it wasn't recorded and we were in the classroom. You know? But if you weren't here when I answered your question, you can go back anytime. Peace to God, Shamel. Shamel, I was going through my my huge beats genre. I got a whole genre and collection of just beats, instrumental beats. I still got the instrumental that you made sampling. It's still a great track. But yeah, and this doesn't mean that the Haitian Revolution doesn't take place, right, Chad? Because sometimes you've got to destroy. Sometimes you don't see the build there. For example, when we deal with the martial arts, we're dealing with something could impact us immediately. We have to destroy immediately. We cannot ask questions if we intend to protect. You know what I mean? Or, just simply defend ourselves. So sometimes you end up destroying and not necessarily know how you could build or how you could have alleviated, because it doesn't always happen that glorious or glamorous or simple, to put it mildly, right? But when it comes to all of these things, when it comes to all of these aspects and stuff, right? Have we studied the angles of the revolutionary? This is why when you study, I want you to study. You cannot just study Che Guevara. You need to study Fidel Castro. You need to study how he kept alive and what he did, what policies he put in place that we're going to have fallout. You know what I mean? That weren't going to completely work. Not everything gets a full cheer from the people. You also have to study Che Guevara, how to deal with things right on the moment. Now it's a totally different story, because a lot of the stuff he did was effective, but it also helped destroy the Chinese culture. You know what I mean? Because what he was also doing was falsely, isolating China, the culture as what he wanted, and not embracing ancient culture. And you know what's funny? A lot of the things that Mao did negatively in that respect are actually what Genghis Khan didn't do. When Genghis Khan took over all these empires, he never got rid of the cultures of the people and the places. What he did was embrace the cultures and adapt them. So if he got into cultures that did better letter writing or did better things like that, he would say, we're going to use that instead. That won't be part of what we're doing is not going to be part of our culture. We're going to do it like them, and that's going to be something that we embrace from them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the so-called culture revolution took away a lot. It helped destroy the links between martial arts and Chinese martial arts and all the ancients. And while it led to a lot of prosperity in some respects, as far as them being their own force, it also destroyed a lot of other things. So it's not, some of these don't have so many positives as far as that goes. You know what I mean? And Real Hip Hop 216, that's really the finality of it all. When we go to Cuba, it's a totally different situation, because what we have is more generations losing touch with the revolution. We also have a bad adaptability. I feel like Fidel didn't adapt well to the internet and tried to block off the internet and social media, as opposed to embracing it as a tool of communication with the people. You know what I'm saying? Because let's say if he gave those daily speeches he gave all over TV, what if he said, listen, I'm going to embrace this first, and I'm going online and making a YouTube page? It sounds crazy, right? But Fidel was definitely that intelligent to easily have done that. Maybe we see something different. Maybe we don't see the availability of the Miami anti-Castro Cubans and their capitalistic and really violent agenda anti-Castro agenda not be so prosperous in effectiveness. You know what I mean? Like they even had Miami even has Jose Malti radio. Everything Jose Malti was about is not what Miami is about. You know, and if you're from New York, Jose Malti, not just his Cuban history, revolutionary Cuban history, that is one of the great inspirations of Fidel Castro. But Jose Malti was a great writer. So if you're a writer, definitely the Jose Malti reader is great. But Jose Malti, excuse me, was a great journalist, and he wrote some of the great journalistic pieces that in New York history, and some really beautiful stuff. You know what I mean? So it's a little fun fact, because I respect and love Jose Malti not just as a revolutionary, but also even more so as a writer. But that's right, Real Hip Hop 216. But all over the world, people are finding their culture. So what becomes original is the way people embrace it. You know what I mean? The way people embrace it and the way that they deal with each other in a humane way. And that's not something that anyone can really own. You know, that's something that everyone should be able to prove. You know? Okay. Right? But remember, there's a balanced approach to studying revolution. And mind you, all these books, if you're interested in learning more about Fidel, Che Guevara, all these, you know, juxtaposing it with, you know, Gandhi and what he did, you know what I mean? Because somebody see a meme and say, oh, Gandhi hated black folk and stuff like that. He was as racist and black hating as you was when you was 85. The whole point, and that's why studying different revolutionaries and seeing their mentalities is something that we need to do. You know, when you study, for example, Gandhi, you realize that, man, he was a product of the British Crown, and you know, he thought he was all that, and he looked down on the African, and got a cruel reminder when he traveled to South Africa. So he was an activist for his own means and purposes. And then, as he became more and more conscious, it became you could see it physically as he discards Western clothing. And then as he fully discards all clothing and makes his own, became more of a revolutionary. And I think the real angle that people have more so to try to claim that he's racist, even though I vehemently disagree, is more so that his political power led him to represent groups that felt that they should have been able to represent themselves by themselves. And Gandhi had so much power, he wanted to represent all these groups. And the truth is that he really did have that much power. And the groups I'm talking about is obviously the Dalits, the so-called black untouchables, right? The Dalits, in the caste system, the lowest caste. They had leaders that wanted to represent for themselves. But Gandhi had disagreements that I don't see as racist. I just see as strategically, you know, differing with them strategically. Because he felt that they could, you know, he would get more effect out of it, you know, and they disagreed on that, you know. But the greats like Rabindranath Tagore, who's one of my favorite authors, and he disagreed with Gandhi as far as the peaceful method. In fact, he wasn't violent, but as far as the peaceful method of doing things to provoke the powers that be, whereas Rabindranath Tagore felt that development of the self only is the only thing we have to do. So obviously Gandhi was two-pronged in that approach, right? Yeah, fly phrase. It's something that I bring up deliberately because that's a common misnomer. People who have read nothing and honestly haven't even watched the Oscar-winning movie the Gandhi. You know what I mean? They haven't even watched Gandhi, let alone let alone read anything about him. You know. But it's like this, though. It's like saying Sunez, he dealt with the mystery god. You know what I mean? If you find my articles, from 1994, the things I published in works, and you'll see, like, Sunez was dealing with a mystery god. It's literally the same thing, you know? Like, you're gonna out me? You know, I was dealing with a mystery God, but it's certainly not the case. You know, it's certainly not the case. But I don't do this too often. But I'm trying to see if I could just go live on the IG at the same time. You know. But let's see what questions you brothers have. Yeah, you know, if you email me Fly Phrase, you know, I'll send you some stuff about Gandhi. You know what I mean? And as far as this acting and really showing the plight and everything like that, you know, obviously it's going to be pro Gandhi, but the movie of Gandhi is beautifully done. It's one of my favorite movies. You know what I mean? But I have a lot of love for Gandhiji. I think he did a lot of great things, and he influenced a lot of people in a good way. Oh, but Real Hip Hop 216, there's so many of those. You know what I mean? There's so many of those kind. You know what I mean? So there's always those people are always out there. You know what I mean? Yeah, but right now I went on the IG live, so that way brothers can try to build. You know, if they want to build, if they want to add on and stuff. You know, y'all want to ask a question or something like that. I know I'm a little backwards and shit. You know what I mean? But I'm on the YouTube now. I figured I'd just throw myself on here while I teach my class and stuff. You know what I mean? And any questions you have, because a lot of people are asking questions. You know, like today, I got a brother that was anonymous on the YouTube, but he had a lot of things, and he didn't want to show his face, and he had a lot of gripes about what I did with sharing the video of the Dominicans having a show of unity with the blacks, because he felt that it was totally false and disingenuous. You know what I mean? So I wanted to build on that too. You know what I mean? And throw that on the IG as well. But the two questions I have in the chat here right now, we were talking about Gandhi and stuff. So Ben Kingsley, that's right. Ben, he won the Oscar for that. So it's a great movie. But I have Gandhi's autobiography. You get a real idea, because a lot of the mentality that he had, that he was talking about, where he, you know, was pretty much like, entitled is the best way to look at it. Though. And this segues great into Dominicans, because Dominicans as a whole are some of the most entitled, want to be, you know, Euro-inspired people. You know what I'm saying? And that's right. That's right, Chad. But not you, Chad. No, somebody else that I was building with on the IG was very, very angry that I posted that, and I didn't know him and stuff. So I built with him for a long time, you know, and it's been that case all week, you know, building in some kind of way through the social media and the students that I have and the student people that I know about the militancy of what we're doing here. You know what I mean? Peace, Smo. You know what I mean? My brother Smo, when I was Smo was one of those brothers that was there when I was trying to develop myself for this good fight. You know what I mean? This good fight that we have, and whether we do this violently, peacefully, in all means. You know what I mean? And what was the thing? A streetwise, you know, brother that was dressing fly with the Tommy Hill, the Nautica, the Polo. My brother Smo, what did he say? He was, you got to do everything. You got to do everything you can and everything. And Smo, I tried to learn as many things as I could, to teach as many things as I could. You know what I mean? But I'll say one thing though about this, right? I shared that video on my Instagram because I lived in Dykeman for over 10 years, right? I lived in Dominican neighborhoods for almost 20 years. You know what I mean? In New York City. No one is more hypocritical as a bulk people in the mentality that they have been ingrained with, right? As far as, you know, as far as having an anti-African identity. And it's because they were taught that very well. They've been, you know, when you say miseducation of the Negro, the miseducation of the Dominican Negro is one of the most potent that you'll ever find in history. And it's something to study and not just defame them. See, the thing is, we have to deal with the 85. We have to understand the 85. So we have to understand that they all have their different levels. You know what I mean? They all have different levels of ignorance. They all have different levels of oppression that they are suffering through. So they have different vantage points. You know what I mean? Yeah, Saladin. Okay. I'll build on that in a little bit because those books, not all of them are the best you could read. But when I shared that video, it was to say that even if some of them were hypocritical, even if some of them were showing a show of unity because they look bad on social media, the whole point is that that's what it should look like. That's what we need to start doing. You know, and it's crazy that it happened when I'm not there because that's some place that I would have been at. You know what I mean? And would have tried to get out in front as just a brother in the crowd, somebody that just has that experience, you know, and throw, you know, whatever understanding if people was willing. You know what I mean? But that's funny, Chad. They have a non-African identity until 1 a.m. at a party. You know what I mean? Hey, I know. You know what I'm saying? I know. You know? But you got to understand, right? What a lot of people don't understand, even a Dominican, if you're Dominican, and there's a lot of great guys that are Dominican that I deal with, that I know. You know what I mean? Some of the best students, right? Peace to God, Saeed, is out there teaching their people. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, though, is that the camaraderie between Puerto Ricans and blacks has been at better stages than it was before. You know what I'm saying? And more Puerto Ricans, so they've been faster because of the hells they're dealing with, faster to acknowledge the difference. You know what I mean? I appreciate that, Super DJ Universal. Yeah, as well am I. You know what I mean? As well am I. And salute all the people that are on this IG. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. You know what I mean? And understand that you're walking into this online exclusive quarantine editions where it's only online that I'm teaching my P.E.A.C.E course because I can't really do it in the school yet. We haven't opened yet, you know, but hopefully that'll happen. You know, I'm thinking it might happen before the end of the month. You know what I mean? But and right now I'm reading through some of the comments as we go along on IG, reading comments on YouTube where I've established a good amount of respectful students. But remember, all righteousness is really led by a few individuals. There'll be a lot of people that do it for show, but there'll be certain individuals that realize that that was absolutely the way to go. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely the way to go. You know? And you know Max Low how it is, though. It's still FTP. You know what I mean? It's still FTP. You know? Been on this planet for over 40 years, right? And I can only count a handful of cops that have been righteous. You know? So no one's going to tell me that, you know, we're talking about an institution here. Don't give me good cops. Don't give me, you know, he's a good apple. He's this, he's that. You know what I'm saying? Right? When I do that about music as a music journalist, though, if I can only give you 2 or 3 good hip-hop albums, hip-hop is not a good genre. You know what I mean? Just like we can say reggaeton is a horrible genre, though. There's no good music out of it. It's all the same. There are no legendary albums. There are no works that you have to go back and pick up and have in your collection so you can show children 30 years down the line, right? What is a great genre? What is a great, you know, what is a great institution, right? Is defined by the bulk of people that are adding on to it, though. You know what I mean? Just like everything. Now, let me go back into some of these thoughts here. Saladin, you said that you've been reading A Life of Reinvention by Manning Marable. Manning Marable wrote a lot of revisionist history in that, you know, including insinuating that Malcolm X was homosexual, and it totally had no basis. You know what I mean? Permanent Record, I don't know about. Snowden's Permanent Record, I don't know. I haven't read that book, but that definitely sounds like it'd be an interesting read from his vantage point. Let's see. Mr. G1, peace. He says, I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions in regards to them and whether you recommend some books based on the 5%. I'm interested in that. I saw on Amazon. Give me a moment to type titles. All right. It's a good question. Yusuf said the systematic race system is fully embedded in the 85. Once they understand the true living, they will know the true equality. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know? And peace to Starving Bee, one of the most, inspiring artists that I've ever met in my my life doing hip hop music. You know what I'm saying? For being prolific, for being insightful, and we can learn a lot from Starving Bee. You know, to speak when you've really done the knowledge, to look at things from all angles, to be able to listen to people even if you don't completely agree with them. These are things that Starving Bee has shown. You know, aside from being one hell of a fucking MC. You know? But take a chili. I don't know what Dago was doing. But listen, he asked for some good books on about this 5%. The truth is, if you want to know about this nation, right? The first book that I would say to pick up, though, is really the Righteous Way books by Starmel. Okay? This is not an infomercial. Okay? This is not an infomercial. I have these books right near me because I am editing the third book in this trilogy. So you have the Righteous Way, and then you have the Righteous Way, the 50-year Golden Jubilee edition. They are both different books with different ideas and elaborations. You know, all different, right? But they're the easiest books to get you into understanding what this nation is about. I'm actually working on editing the third and last book of that trilogy, right, as we speak. And there's a lot of great stuff in there. And it's not finished yet, but it's already looking incredible to me. You know what I mean? Let's see what we have here. Mr. G asking about In the Name of Allah, book 1 and 2. Those were written by someone that's not in this nation that I've spoken to and is in every single way has shown himself to be the most disingenuous and fiendish. So most of his history that he's getting are from very small fragments of pieces. So, for example, he talks about Firstborn Prince, but his only research material on Firstborn Prince, though, is one letter that Firstborn Prince wrote to one person in jail, just one letter. I would hate that if someone writes an entire history of me after I've published hundreds and hundreds of articles and books to use one letter that I wrote one of you brothers out there in the prisons. You know? I would hope that I wrote it good enough then. You know what I'm saying? But, The Righteous Way, what I helped Supreme Understanding and C.E.A.C.E. A-Life edit, the Knowledge of Self Anthology, that is definitely one of the ones to get, right? If you want to get a framework of what it's like, what God's and Earth are like all over the world. You know what I mean? So I had the honor of editing a lot of essays in there, and offering a lot of assistance as we went along in that book. So I co-edited that book. What else we have? There's one. There's also The Immortal Birth by Allah Jihad. Okay? That's a book that I edited as well. Every other book, though, is not really going to... There really are no other books that give you a good framework of the history of this nation. There are authors that are about specific things that are certainly in this nation, like Saladin, and any books by Saladin are worth capturing and having in the library. You know what I mean? Infinite Mind, Peace God. I don't know what you're referring to. If you're referring to the books, I'm editing the third and final book of The Righteous Way, which reminds me, Infinite Mind, I have to be with you about that book that I'm editing now. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to text you later, okay? So I don't forget. Is there somewhere Word 60 says, is there somewhere you would recommend finding Star Mills books? They are on Amazon for $50 at least. What kind of treachery is this? Let me look. I didn't know that they were there for that much. You know, Star Mills pays a lot of money for these books, but I've never seen them for that price. You know? Now, if you look against the paperback is $15 for The Righteous Way, the first one. The Golden Jubilee edition, that is not available on paperback on Amazon, but it is available for only $6.49 on Kindle. That's a deal right there. You know what I'm saying? That's a real deal. You know, another book that's good. It has like the longest title ever. Let me find the book. But it's really the book that collects essays from the older gods, that many of the older gods. That certainly is a book to get, and definitely the latest read that is worthwhile. So that book is called The True History of Allah and His 5%. The greatest story never told by the gods and earths who were there. That book is only $16, and Kindle for $4. So if you can't afford it, the Kindle's good. Right? Peace, Luna. Luna is my beautiful daughter. Right? So, out of all the books that I mentioned, the books that I helped edit, the books that I helped put out, Star Mills books, Knowledge of Self book, The True History of Allah and His 5%, those are the books that you should be getting first. Any other book about this nation, read it. Go check it out. See the right and the wrong, or the questions that you might have of it. But they weren't there, and if they were there disingenuously and misleading. You know what I mean? All right. Peace, Malik. All right. Appreciate everybody in the IG. Stop by, throw a salute. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Let's see what other questions we have, right? Did we hit up Star Mill to get them books? Listen, Star Mill's on the social media. So, yes, definitely hit him up, though. Because if he doesn't have the books, he definitely will get it. He'll definitely get them to you. I'm trying to find his IG. I don't know what his IG is. Yeah. His IG isn't his name, Star Mill. It's just The Righteous Way book. So, all spelled correctly, The Righteous Way book. Right? So you go on there, DM him on the IG, and you get that book. You know what I'm saying? Right. My twin Manny, what's up? What up? Gods and Earth by Penn Black. Yeah, ditch that. You know what I mean? That's for the scrap heap. These people, I don't know where they're coming from. You want to read it, but, we'll take no word. Let's see what other question. Yeah, I don't. Honestly, I don't hate on Tego as a person. I think he's somewhat talented, but I think he's a lesser MC. So I don't care if he's Puerto Rican. When he was on the Primo beat, he was stumbling. Though. It was like he was falling down the stairs. But Real Hip Hop 216. I gotta make sure the books are okay. Yeah, and if you have questions about books, just let me know. Yeah, greatest story never told. And what I'm happy about the greatest story never told is that our brother Umala, who returned to the Essence recently, he always kept away from social media and things like that. He wrote an essay there, and I know it took him a lot to write something and share it to the public. And now it's really something that I treasure a lot in that book. You know what I mean? But nobody knows what it is. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Small, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't. Remember, Tego. Yeah, Primo gave him a banger though, and he just tripped up and fell on that shit. Like it was just crazy. I don't know. I don't know. And I gotta buy albums where I have to fast forward through reggaeton. Think twice. Think twice. I got better things to do in my life. You know. Right now, for those that don't know, I spent a little time here trying to write down this notes and agenda. So on the YouTube video of this classroom, all of the notes, the ideas, they'll all be there. And if you notice the way I'm teaching this class right now, I've been trying to get like the form from people, what they need to know, all these kind of things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I haven't read that book. I haven't read that book from Born King, so I can't really comment on that. One thing I do know is that he actually is in this nation. But I haven't read shut the fuck up, that book, STFU. I haven't read it. The one thing is this, though. When we talk about revolution, we talk about all these things, you know what I'm saying, is all of these things is really about the organizing. What will you do after? What will it inspire you to? You know what I mean? You know why, if you're young and I tell you to go to a protest and go to all these things? Because I want you to see how useless that it'll be when you go out there. In other words, I want you to go out there and realize that these people don't care about your demands. You see what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of times, though, it degenerates into looting and rioting. Because you just went out there and now you realize that these people really don't care. You see? And that the stratagems of letting you see the depths of our people, the strategies and the carelessness that they deal with us, where body cams could be on them and they're still going to abuse us, they want you to see all that stuff. They have no qualms about you seeing all this stuff. So I want you to go to protest. I want you to go to see these things. If you're a young man, if you're a young woman, go see that. Lead the people. Keep them righteous, though. Keep them from breaking up the neighborhood. All of these things. But I also want you to take note of the most important takeaway that you'll get from there, that me and brothers like Smo and all of us took away a long time ago. That the real focus of these protests is really to reevaluate how effective you are off that court. You know what I'm saying? How effective you are off that performance stage of the protest. That's a stage of protest. That's a stage. But how effective are you off that? How well are you organizing in the community? You know what I mean? Sometimes people talk about, we don't know what we're doing. We're not having any builds in the community. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And yet, the brother that's silent, though, he isn't commanding 50 people. He doesn't command an army when he goes out. But in his neighborhood, there are at least 4 or 5 young youth that look to him for solutions, for guidance, for reference. You see what I'm saying? For learning, right? And for the wisdom of their experiences. That's how you become a community builder. And if we're talking about guerrilla warfare, the most unseen tactic is when they don't even know that you're teaching. When they see the righteousness of a community built and they don't know where it's coming from. You see? This is the power. You know what I mean? This is the real power, because after all that, what comes is the organizing. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to do everything. I want you to go vote. I want you to vote. If you want to have fun voting for every other person but Trump, vote for him. I want you to go vote for local leaders. I want you to go criticize local leaders. I want you to see what a school board what a meeting is. You know, a community board meeting is like, and what they do in there. You know what I'm saying? I want you to have when you have a question, to see what question you could ask a community board. All of these things. Where are the community boards? You know what I mean? Who really has the sway? Who is on these community boards if they're not just politicians? Right? What are the type of issues that are brought up? Right? To do all these things. To learn how to say, listen, I want to give back things to the community. How can I organize this? Can I get a couple of brothers to chip in some stuff and we'll go do this? Right? When brothers look at what we do, like all the lowlives that have really made it to a hip-hop movement, It's also because they've made it a social movement. They've given out things to the children. They've given out supplies. They've done things for the youth. You know what I mean? So it's much more than just doing what we love to do, but also doing things small, the unseen things, right? In the Tao Te Ching, the most prized leader wasn't the leader that people revered and loved. It was the leader that led the people to say, we did it on our own. Where the people felt that they did it on their own because they could do it on their own, even when the leader passed away, even when the leader's time was through with leadership, right? That's right. That's right, Smoke. Actual fact. Actual facts, right? But how can we be an asset? You know, people ask me, how am I teaching all this long? It's simple. This is what I know how to do, and this is going to be my main add-on to the community. This is how I'm going to keep in touch. Aside from keeping in touch with the arts, through the arts, with the community, being in touch by sharing the things that I am learning, right? Yeah, 793 to go back. I have no idea about that song with Tego on the lean back beat. So if we have any, absolvement of Tego, please send it my way. DM me, send it my way, email me. Yeah, Real Hip Hop. Yeah, oh man, Real Hip Hop 216 says I went to a BLM Black Lives Matter protest. I live on the street. Tamir Rice was killed. Yeah, and that's tough. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can't escape it. Right? The thing is, though, right? It's taking note of all these things, and if you feel like it's not leading up to solutions, all this rallying and all this protesting, then what else could lead to the solution? You see? Then go to a protest and look at it more as like a recruitment of those who are really willing to do something after, not those who just, because here's the thing, right? You have people on two sides that are emotional. You have people that are emotionally fearful and won't do anything because of the fear. Then you have people that are emotional. You know what I mean? Then you have people that are emotional that go out there and hoop and holler. You have to actually cut through and sift through the people that are emotional. Right? And that's the thing. The revolution takes recruitment as well. It takes recruitment. Who's willing to do stuff? Who's not willing to do stuff? All of this stuff matters. That's real. That's a real shame, Real Hip Hop. That the policing got worse. You know what I mean? And Mr. G1, let me tell you something, right? Do I see protests as a way of bringing awareness? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And the truth is that what they do more is what you don't see. When they get on the news and those brothers and sisters speak to those news cameras, they're educating people about the need and the intensity of certain things. And more importantly, that we are willing to mobilize and that we have demands. You know what I mean? And these are the beginnings of political power, right? I see that. That's peace. That's peace. Yeah, that's real. That's real terrible. Witnessing that. You know what I mean? Sometimes the movement is right in front of our face. The hell is right in front of us. Right? But peace to God. Did I see Saeem in here? Peace to God. Now that Saeem is on, I'm not gonna trash Dominicans anymore. I'm just kidding. I wasn't trashing. The Now, what I would like to do though is that if nobody has any continued questions, just throw me some builds. How do you see today's mathematics? And we'll build from there, because obviously that's going to relate to everything that we've been building on as well. And I'll also answer a question once we start getting builds on the mathematics, or as we start to get builds in the mathematics, of a question that I had from an email. It said how to live out supreme mathematics in an applicable and practical way. Okay, all right. Small said action leads to change in policy, but votes are what get the ones to make the changes. Absolutely, absolutely. You know what I mean? I've always been militant with voting. You know what I'm saying? And but I think it's a tool, especially on the local level. And again, I want us to use all of our tools, though. Why would you get weapons and not use all your weapons? You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't like who you're voting for, go in there and write something in. I don't care what you do, but do the knowledge to the entire situation. You know what I mean? Absorb all these experiences. They're important. Okay? You can't say you did it all if you didn't do any of it. Okay? And that's important as a young man, as a young woman. Okay? But the question was, among many questions I received in that email from one of the students, was how to live out supreme mathematics, like, in an applicable way. It's really about doing the knowledge. You know what I mean? You have to go through the mathematics by yourself. And once you understand what they mean on a basic definition level, then you're going to say what makes them supreme and how do I attach principles to them. In other words, how is knowledge an actual fact, a truth, right? An actual living idea in your mind. How does this become a way of life, right? That we realize that the ideas that we have to be what? Used, wisdom, right? They have to become used, they have to have experience, and they have to come to what? A revelation of purpose and understanding. See? That's all what happens in the mind, right? But the culture is what everyone sees. Once you make culture, everyone sees it. Once you make a great work, once you write something incredible that's shared out there, someone has seen your culture go out there in reality, in life. They've seen it out there. You cannot pull it back. It's the inner 1, 2, 3, and then the outer 4, 5, 6. That culture is your understanding expressed, your way of life. You see? And of course, though, it freely what? It freely extends itself, its influence throughout the world, right? Throughout the cipher that it's intended for. That particular idea, that particular knowledge, that particular truth, right? So then it becomes what? It becomes something that influences, has a propulsive influence out there in the world, the power. And it leads to an equality, right? In this case, that equality, I'm looking for something that I wrote because I've written it great. Since we're going through this, might as well go through some of my supreme mathematics build, which is something that I did say we was going to go through it, but I'm giving you the fast forward build. Then I'm going to go through it in detail as we go along, right? But equality, I always like to say, is the proper position. When you build out there and you live out your culture of understanding, it lends itself to what? Giving out, it has its own power that also offers you an equality. It puts you in a proper position. Your own reality has balanced you in a certain way, right? And it is also giving you a balance to what? See the fruit of all of it. And that is the 7, the 8, and the 9. The 7, 8, and 9 in supreme mathematics is the fruit. You see? In other words, you don't become God again once you build this way, right? And go through supreme mathematics. What you do is reaffirm yourself. You see? So I call it a rejuvenation, a reaffirmation when we talk about that flow, right? And then we what? We universally change things. We build. What once was there is no longer. We have destroyed it and built something greater, right? You have impacted your cipher. And it leads to what? Something being born, an elevated fulfillment. See? That's supreme mathematics, taking things through supreme mathematics. Right? As we go along and we go through that a little bit deeper, go through my supreme mathematics bill. Right? Saladin wrote, peace. I'm ecstatic to be of culture of God. I live it, I teach it, I love it. Okay. That's not really a build, it's more of an emphatic statement. That's peace. So if you have some builds on the supreme math, throw them at me. Every class session, I want to go through them. Okay, and I want you to develop them. Be able to articulate them in such a way where you could teach the people something that is useful to them, whether they're in this nation or not. Young Poppy says, it's become trendy for people to go out and protest, but I feel more people need the knowledge from the wisdom of those who actually qualify to lead the people from a greater understanding. Absolutely. But let me tell you something about the youth, right? The youth are always looking for teachers and educators among their own ranks of age, you know? And so they have that right, just like we did, to look for those youth. And that's why I say, if you're going to go protest, if you're young and you're going to go protest, find those builders and recruit. Find the like minds that could teach you something, you know, outside of the protest, outside of that stage. You know what I mean? You should be coming away with things after a protest, not just let off steam. You know? If not, you didn't network. You didn't build enough that good. You know? Fly Phrase says, I'm still going over Supreme Math to get and grasp my own understanding of it on it. At the moment, I just have other gods' views of it and not my own. I'm still a baby with the knowledge mentally, but I'm old. All right, well, you know, yeah. Keep writing in your journal, though. Eventually, something in there is going to be you when you start writing your insights and your questions and all that. Eventually, you will get to you. Chad says, can say about how long it took you to reach this enlightenment. I'm not going to say I'm enlightened at all. Enlightenment is really a process of moments of enlightenment. You know what I mean? I see it in the old Sufic order way. You know, many of the Sufic orders saw it that way. Just because I have a knowledge of self, after a while I see this kind of something that I should have known, that is basic. You know, so every aspect of enlightenment seems my own. And once it becomes my own, though, it doesn't seem like such a wonderful, you know, destination achieved. It's just something that was in my nature to get to, you know. But a lot of reading, a lot of studying. When we talked about revolution, we've been talking about revolution the last week in the last class. And what was the first thing that I talked about in revolution? I talked about building your own lab. Everybody's talking about what they're going to do outside, but I talked about building your own lab. If you live with your parents, you build your own lab, your own room, your own station. If you have a home with everyone and you have your own family, where's your laboratory? Where's the place? Where's the area? Where is the time that you go and you study yourself? You go into self-study and develop. And that includes what I call the TOP, right? And I keep saying this, the TOP, what I call the truth of power, the triangle of power. Typing it into the chat, right? I'm not going to double type. Type it into the chat of the YouTube. Right? The triangle of power, I named this after Wing Chun because in Wing Chun, the power base is in that fashion. Right? The power base is in that fashion, where your root is your chest, your body, and then your striking out is the other angles of the triangle. But in this triangle of power, I'm talking about what you actually let me articulate this as best as I can. The triangle of power, you're dealing with what you actually learn, right? How you actually train, and then how you actually build or create. These are the things that develop a man and woman's triangle of power. All of their power is expressed in those three aspects. What they do to knowledge to. In other words, what do they learn? What do they read? What do they study? Then how do they train themselves? Their body, their physical, their mind, once they have learned these things, right? And then what do they share? How do they express all of this? Okay? That triangle of power cannot be denied once you develop it. Okay? And every revolutionary has developed that. We talked about Che Guevara and all this stuff like that. What do you think he was doing in all the other places but developing his triangle of power? What do you think he was doing in his motorcycle diaries but developing his triangle of power by what? Learning of the people. Now, on the IG, the God Awful, oh, that guy. Yeah, the God Awful. Yeah. Peace, God. If culture and freedom are two separate aspects of today's map, doesn't that somewhat imply that to be cultured into anything and bound by its known social mores in some ways inhibits one's freedom? The reason culture and freedom are together in the degrees is because they have a synergy, but also have like a combative nature as well. They can seem to repel. You know what I'm saying? But in this thing, no, it's to deal with culture in a way that is constantly liberating. So you actually have to deal with your own culture, your own living out your own understanding in a way that is done that freely expresses all your understanding. Because isn't this the goal of one's understanding? When I say that we're the true and living God, we're creators. You see what I'm saying? But it's not, and it's for. Okay, you'll have to rewrite that because you wrote in real spickies, so I don't know. I don't know what you said there. A little bit. I needed some more grammar commas, but I'm not sure what you're adding on there, God. Right? But the thing is, right? The culture should be dealt freely. In other words, your understanding should be expressed. You see? But when it feels like your culture is inhibited, though, then you have to look at yourself and say, how well are you living your culture? You see? Right? Right. It's culture or freedom, though. So they, and really the culture of freedom, the way I was taught, though, the reason that or is there is because they can go either. It's really, the grammar is off there, but it's really, it could be culture and freedom or culture and or freedom. This is that, when the father was building, it wasn't like being so particular like that. Mm-hmm. But the culture always has aspects of freedom. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we will focus on freedom when we're dealing with our culture. Mm-hmm. And by the way, serious mathematics says, Almighty God, Dawood Allah has many books, Be Perfect, and In the Beginning That Never Began. Both of must read. Yeah, he has a lot of great books. Yeah. When the God was asking me about books about this nation, Dawood hasn't really written books about this nation. He's written books about his ideas. So they're not really books that you would read to understand what we're teaching and how we are as a nation. They're books about real theory, about real science, and application. So they're a little bit, for the more advanced reader. Yeah. Well, real, you all the way blasphemous though. So there's no, there's a rhyme or reason though. They just don't always get it though. But when we build later, I want to hear that build about why you don't tackle out the enemy. But because you always have understanding and definitely insight that I didn't think about. I'm not going to deny you until I hear you out. You know what I'm saying? But how do we live out this mathematics though? I went through the mathematics of how it's a process, but when you live it out though, it's because you're working to apply principles to each of the definitions. In other words, your principles. So you should be writing things like, well, what's a culture? Don't write culture is blah blah, I'm the God, da da da. What is your culture? And if you say, let's say Saladin, you said a culture is people activities, apply people activities to self as far as today's math is concerned. Your assignment then is to write down what are those activities that make and develop a righteous culture. You see? This is the difference. You know what I'm saying? This is the difference. Right? It's like we don't teach that. Yeah. And that's true. You know what I'm saying? That's true. And there's always one student that will always challenge you and make you come to an even greater understanding. Rio is one of those. Alright, what do we have here? Alright, so my brothers, I don't see any builds. You know what I'm saying? Jamel, peace God. Throw me your builds on today's mathematics, so I want to build. I want to see where you're at. It's the best way to see where you're at. Okay? Let me see. It don't sound good phonetically after real, so since Allah is implied, I'm like, it's redundant. No, it's just a reference. Mystic. You know what? In a lot of ways it is, though. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of ways it is. You know? But remember, oftentimes the name is actually the teaching tool. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, though, that's why we use our last name. You know what I'm saying? That's why we use the last name of Allah. So nobody has any builds, right? There are no builds on today's path. Writing this in the chat because I'm bugging out. But I'm gonna start going through my plus lesson here and just read it to you. Again, supreme mathematics, like other builds that we'll have, I really don't want you to be a parrot, and so I wrote a lot of this very difficult. Okay, so even when I give it to you, when I email it to you, those who want it, it isn't easy to read because I don't want you to just copy it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it does though, real, yeah. You know, as far as the aesthetic of it, though, it sounds crazy. But yo, in the Supreme Mathematics build, I said Supreme Mathematics is our truth tool of education for us. Its existence is not the making of truth, but the perfect sharing of our truth of self as creators of all creation. Okay? For the Creator, the true living God, whose proper name is Allah, it answers what and how the original man does, and this includes his partner in creating the black woman, the embodiment of creation, who is the earth. As their natural relationship is dominantly embodied as creator God and creation universe, Supreme Mathematics Supreme Mathematics also details the lone order of the entire universe. Heavy sense. Now I'm gonna explain it a little bit simpler. Yeah, that's why you gotta practice, God. Kasim, I see you, God. It takes a lot of work, you know what I'm saying? Always envision you explaining it to a younger man, a young brother, you know what I'm saying? And it becomes a little bit simpler. When I say Supreme Mathematics is a truth tool of education for us, I did that on purpose. Supreme Mathematics is not a spell, okay? Today's math is not, it is not culture, freedom, boom, and then, you have culture, freedom. It's not a spell, okay? It's not something you're going to say, and then life is going to get good and all that kind of stuff, or all of a sudden you'd be cultured now if you define the word properly, okay? The actual reality is that Allah knew that we were the true and living gods. He knew that the original man is God, that we create all this with our mind and our thoughts. So he made a tool that expresses that in the language that the universe is written in, and that is mathematics. And so he focused that into a simplicity of order and insight by Supreme Mathematics. So you got to look at Supreme Mathematics as also a pedagogical tool. In other words, a tool of teaching. First, though, it teaches the user that uses it and learns how to understand it. Okay? And that's what I mean by truth tool of education for us. You see, a lot of the sentences in writing are extremely heavy because they need to be in line with the actual teaching of it. Okay? Absolutely, real. You're right about that. definitely debunked the unity of culture and freedom. But the or is there for a reason. Even though it goes together, it can also go separate. Right? Now the second sentence, I said, its existence, supreme mathematics existence, is not the making of truth, but the perfect sharing of our truth of self as creators of all creation. Okay? Again, that's me saying it's not a spell. We did not, the Father didn't make supreme mathematics and all of a sudden the world came to be. Supreme mathematics is. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take a break here from building on this paragraph. Let me build on this paragraph because I know supreme scientists wrote some, so I know it's going to be useful. Let me finish this paragraph of this plus lesson I have. For the Creator, that is us, the true and living God, his proper name is Allah. It answers what and how do we do, right? And it also includes that black woman, okay? You keep it simple. It's what and how we do. So when you go through it, you want to be looking at your principles, okay? The exercises for knowledge is, well, what are the most important things that I do know? The exercises for wisdom, well, what are the most important ways I express myself? Understanding, what are the insights that I have that are most profound that I don't see anyone else with? What is my culture? And list them out. What are the things that I do and how are they righteous or not righteous? Right? And by doing things like this, you start to develop your own principles. Okay? Right? Your own principles. And if you rewind just a little bit, young Poppy, I just described what I see today's mathematics is. The culture of the true living God, the day-to-day reality, is to forever define how he is actually creating. The culture of God is to be creative and to be creating. To be creating a better world and to be making creations of beauty and incredible things. Right? I went Trump there and I lost my good vocabulary right there. But that express ourselves. See? If that is not the culture, if you cannot articulate the culture, right? Through works, through real works. And if your nature doesn't produce works, if it doesn't produce the development of a greater self, then those are the aspects of your culture, then all of the aspects of your culture are missing. Because the one's culture are the things that they engage in that fulfill themselves righteously and also fulfill the people around them righteously. So now we have to define principle. What is righteousness? You see? And then we get more and more detail as we go along. And supreme scientists, you said culture is the organization of life and matter through consistent application of supreme math and manifested through 1, civilization, 2, righteousness, 3, the knowledge of self, and 4, science. Another brilliant, concise, insightful way to explain that. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for that, supreme scientist. And see, the thing is, though, is that the way life, when you come to an understanding like that, you remember it. And so you start to write down, well, what are the things that will be the building blocks of this? What makes me civilized? What makes the things that I do naturally righteous and infects the cipher around me with righteousness? You see? What are the things that I do that express that I have knowledge of myself? Right? What are the things that I do that show that I am an individual, a creator that studies the science of himself? Those are the aspects of culture. And then how are we living them out? And therein lies you developing your principles as you engage. Jassim says, today's supreme math is culture freedom. Culture is the cultivation through systematic improvement of the mind. Fair enough. Freedom is self-determination. I, self-lord and master, is the will to till. Nice flip at the end, Jassim. I like that. The will to till. It's nice. Even though the till would refer more to the earth and stuff. Still, it still works. I live out Allah's culture, which gives me freedom to all being born Allah. Okay. I'm assuming that's what you said there with the ABBA. Right? So I said, as their natural relationship is dominantly embodied as creator and creation, God and the universe, right? Man and woman, Supreme mathematics also details the law and order of the universe. So the assignment in dealing with supreme mathematics is to actually go back to things that you have already done and to see if you really did go from knowledge through wisdom, through understanding, through culture, and so on and so forth to bring that to fulfillment, born. Right? Okay, so peace to everyone that joined. Just give a little holler. Right? Peace, Queen. All right? Peace, Queen Liasia. Let's see what Josh Sim says here. Knowledge to wisdom to understanding. Okay? Real Hip Hop says, my do-rag is my kufi. That's culture. All right, well, we want to get a little bit more profound than that. You know what I mean? Let me get it, right? You don't want a piece of polyester. Breathe through polyester to be the culture only. You know what I mean? Now the second, let's go. I may not even get through all this stuff because it's such a long build. This plus lesson on supreme math, but supreme mathematics is all reality, and all reality just is. It has always been and always will be. There's no beginning nor ending. Thus allowing all reality of creator and creation to be expressed as one and zero. What always is one, and that principle which allows that which always is to always will be zero. Okay. The supreme mathematics is a deliberate detailing of the moments of creation between the initiation of Allah's mind through his infinitely receiving vessel that is creation itself. This supreme mathematics is the insight of perfection. I'm going to stop there for a minute. That last sentence was going to get into something even heavier. Yes, real. I'm not denying the kufi here. But check this, right? Everything is supreme mathematics. Everything can be expressed through supreme mathematics. It's all your creations, all your creativity. It's the essence of you. It's all really just one and zero. Okay? It's really all just one and zero. Okay? Supreme mathematics details the beginning of that thought, that supreme thought, and expresses it all the way to what knowledge add on a cipher, where you will continue to live. You know what I mean? Continue to add on. Okay? So 1 through 9 is all just details of this process. You know what I mean? Right? The culture and freedom are put together, though, because they were in contrast. Remember, this is a teaching tool for society. And there was a great contrast and conflict between what people's freedoms they were declaring and the culture that they were living. See? So that quest of aligning culture and freedom, I was literally going to say culture and do-rag. Thank you, Rio. Thank you. Right? These are both do-rag dynasties. Peace to the God power of planet Asia. Right? But, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. This do-rags is heavy, man. I mean, my mental do-rag is tight now. But, no, seriously. Who asked the question? Yeah, culture and freedom. The reason that they're there is because they have to be what? Synergized. They have to be put together. Okay? It's culture of freedom, and you go about things by both ways, but your culture always has to have aspects of freedom, but your freedom, though, always has to be culture. You see? And the culture of freedom, though, is really the angles by which you attack things, by which you engage things. You know what I mean? What I'm saying here in this plus lesson, right, is that everything is just really 1 and 0, and the details are happening. Nothing goes where you knowledge, and then you notice, oh, I'm doing the wisdom. Oh, I'm doing the understanding. Nothing that is created happens that way. It's all fluid. It's in you analyzing things, analyzing the aspects and degrees of certain things, or the steps of certain things that make you realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong with the way this is, my culture's not manifesting proper power. You know what I mean? I don't have the influence with the right things I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? These are the differences. You know what I'm saying? These are the differences. Right? Now I said this, and this is a major teaching of mine. This supreme mathematics is the insight of perfection. And I define perfection as constant elevation at an ever-increasing rate. And that rate is circular, the depth of raw reality. Okay? A perfection where development is naturally circular and builds off what is as the lesson to what will be, far greater as it revolves once again. In other words, we're always forever going back, doing the knowledge, and going forward more strong. Some of the comments here. Jarrell says, today's math is culture, which is the sum total of a people's activities or ways and actions. This is based on our priorities and values, based on the assessment and perception of certain principles. All right. You said culture is the sum total of people's activities and ways and actions. That's correct. You said it's based on our priorities and values. That's also correct. Based on the assessment and perception of certain principles. Right. So then now what becomes the principles that we say are actual going to be knowledge? Right? And Kasim, you're right. The process. Right? So these are the things that I'm talking about. Okay? That's a good way of putting it, Jarrell. And then what do you want to do for your homework here? Your homework then is to articulate, put into detail what are those things that Jarrell says is his culture. Okay? All right, Hanif, peace. Do righteous and God. I see you, real power. I see you. I see you. Hanif says freedom to do whatever. The wise do what's right and must be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. All right. Next paragraph. Supreme mathematics is not a tool to make you appropriate in identity. Excuse me. Supreme mathematics is not a tool to make you appropriate an identity it relates. Instead, it merely. Okay, IG went off. Okay. Okay, my IG went off though, and so my connection is a little bit suspect here. We'll go back to that in a little bit. All right. What I want to do now though is take a, you know what? Because we're doing that, I'm going to take a little break to fix my internet connections a little bit better. Okay. I'm gonna go fix my internet connection better so it stays strong, so I can use the Instagram and continue with the YouTube as we go along. But I want people to start to say, if you the question right now is, if a younger person asked you what is the culture that is righteous, what are the things and activities that you would say that would be righteous? We have to make this thing more than a concept, but actual things. What would be that righteous culture? All right. right? Are the builders here? Are the builders here and getting in? Let's see. I'm gonna try to see if I can work this and go back on the IG, the live. Right? But most important is YouTube, because everyone that is building can always go back. Everyone that is watching on the IG, they can get the entire video of the class online. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get it online. You know? So if you miss something in the classroom, or if you're watching it on IG, the YouTube, I'm saving all this. Even when we get back into the building and this quarantine, hopefully by the end of the month, then we'll really get to, get it right. Big bro, Thurston, salute, 2L's, you know what I mean? 2L's. I talk a lot about organization and doing something for our people. Even after all these years, I learned so much from my brothers, including Thurston Howe, about organization and building and using your creative power, your creative artistic power, to actually build something in the community. Build something in the community that has lasting power. You know what I mean? And like I said, you want to use all your tools, but you also want to build in the community in such a way where if you go to these protests, you're also networking. You've got to be in these protests and find out the real builders. A lot of people spend time trying to find out the looters, but the real jewel is to go to these protests and find out who the real builders. Who are the ones that's really going to do something? Who are the ones that are attached to organizations and you can help do community work? You know what I mean? If it's just helping in the soup kitchen or things like that, who are the ones that you can add on with, that you can find your talents or maybe teach some kids some things, the things that you know, or someone that can take an overview of your talents and skills and and really build. Real Hip Hop 216, you funny, very funny. I'm glad that we haven't lost our sense of humor. So, let's see who's on here. Let's see my brother's getting on the IG and everything like that. Thank you for the salute. But and everyone that's building. Again, these one of the main things in the classroom, I say, is that you're not just learning from me, but you're also learning from an entire network. To build. You know what I mean? And so if you're learning from me, you're also learning from all these other people that I learned from, and also I can introduce you around. So not only network, but also references and all that. And when you go out to these marches, that's what you're doing. What are the organizations that you feel you could learn from in a limited time or in an extended period? These are the things that you should be looking at, not just letting off steam or expecting that you will get immediate response from the people that you're asking things of, which, if we know our history well enough, we know that rarely happens, right? That's peace, God. I got it all up, Mr. G1 says the divine way of life brings freedom to those who choose to live it out. That's right. I see culture that way. Fly phrase? Yeah. Oh, you got bars, Kasim? You got bars? Okay. I hear some of that. When I have class, when we get back into the school, I'm still going to be at least live on the YouTube. That way we have like classes you can go back and study. Maybe the IG, maybe not. Only because I always have some type of written down things and lessons in front of me. So definitely will be recorded on YouTube. So I'm going to keep doing that because it's been useful. That's right, community activism. Okay? You got to find those networks, and start with the small. You start with the small. Wise You says freedom, just equality for all human families. When there is peace, the total absence of chaos and confusion. Indeed. That is a truth. Okay? That is a truth. Now, unless I missed, no, I did not miss any builds. My apologies for the gap in time. I just wanted to make sure that my internet was right because it gave me some problems and stuff, and it was fine. It was just, the phone is working. I had the 4. The phone is on something different now, so the phone. But everything should be good until the end of this class session, which ends at 10. I'm here every day, every Thursday from 7 to 10. Okay? Now, we got through some of the stuff. Now, remember, if you juxtapose this class with last week's class, which are all on my YouTube channel, Sunez 7, I have constantly left a record of what we need to do as far as what is a warrior way, what is a protocol, what is a health protocol, what are the ways that we could build, what are the ideals that we can have as far as daily life. All of these things are important. None of this, you can't go bring revolution anywhere if you're not really ready to actually change your life and become what you want people to be. You know what I'm saying? You cannot teach people what to be or what to live like if you cannot become that and live that. Okay? So that's really important. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to continue with the lesson. Just give me a moment because I want to write the notes out. So I have the question. I'm going to write down the notes. We are going through the Supreme. All right. Now I'm still reading the introduction to this plus lesson. So it goes on like this. Supreme math is not a tool to make you appropriate an identity it relates. Okay, you're not learning supreme mathematics just so you can pretend to be the God. Instead, it is merely to identify the principles within self as they are lived daily. With this elevated recognition of our principles and their proper actualization in our daily living, it is absolute that we can only be and born self endlessly. This goes back to how we live in the mathematics every day. You know what I mean? Right? Peace to my brother Starker. Peace to the God. See you doing good things out there and making great music. That new album is incredible. And when we live out supreme mathematics daily, those are the more complex ways of analyzing it, saying that we live out our principles and that we actualize them. We make them living. You know what I mean? But how do we make them living? Well, we learn to simplify things. You know what I'm saying? So you say, what makes a culture, though? You know what I mean? The way you live, the way you act, the way you build. So how do you take that to someone else? You know what I'm saying? How do you engage that? How do you show, in other words, how do you show what you're about by the way that you walk? How do you show who you are by the way that you dress? You know what I mean? How do you show who you are by the things that you are actually doing? Now, for example, when you eat a meal, are you eating a meal because you like it, or you say, yo, this is what Sunez is fucking about? You know what I mean? Like, you eat a meal and I go, yo, this is what I'm about. You know? See, everything I do is so much me that people that don't always get it, though, they first associate it with just me. Because it's become my character. It's become my nature. It's become the way that I do things. You see what I'm saying? So you have to learn what is your nature and what you are going to be about. And that's why making the righteous name, though, is one of the most important activities. Because you're declaring what you will be and what you are and what you will continue to be. Right? So that's really one of the aspects. Now, I say here, to better utilize supreme mathematics, this build that I'm about to go into emphasizes the linear approach when one is detailing creation from 1 to 9 through 0, through the perspective of us, the creator. So there are many ways to build supreme mathematics, as a lone aspect or as something else. The reason that that I'm telling you that this plus lesson is a linear approach because I'm trying to show you the connections between 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and 5. So I'm trying to show you the connective tissue between each number. But sometimes when you build, you'll be building with just the day's math, you know what I mean? Or you'll just see principles like 5, or, you know, equality or whatnot, okay? So that's important. Now, let's see here. Okay, it is further broken down into an inner development of 1, 2, 3, the inner, an outer expression of 4, 5, 6, and then leading to a fruit of 7, 8, 9. This has been my understanding. This is how I'm sharing it with you. And willingly, you get a greater understanding of it, and then you develop your own. Okay? This isn't the end all. Okay? All I know is I can show and prove that my understanding. Peace to the earth. Right. And see, Free, my brother Free, I miss you, Free. I know you've been out there and stuff. I've been thinking about you because I know when things pop off, you're always out there, engaged and chronicling. You know what I mean? And the thing is, God, like, we have to be willing to embrace anything if it's right and exact, even if it's not something that is equated with us. But we also have to be willing to make things that are right and exact part of our reality. You know what I mean? And that's also important too. One of the worst things that God and earth can do is get a knowledge of self and yet continue with the clicheing of themselves. That's the worst thing that can happen. Is clicheing yourself. And the new student, one of their biggest obstacles is defeating the cliches of their reality. Right? Defeating the cliches that they've used to construct their reality. I'm a real nigga. This is what I'm about. I fucks with things like this. People have made their own way. This is what I'm about. They've assumed their own nature. You know what I'm saying? I get students and they'll be like 14, so, mathematics, doing math is not my shit. Reading books is not my shit. And I'm like, you're 14. There is nothing that is your shit. You know what I mean? There is only certain things. You know what I mean? So we have to learn how to be universal. And that's why I wrote the Justice Curriculum. To learn how to embrace all subjects, to see what we are great at. The truth is, we have no idea. No idea. So 1 in the mathematics, though. Okay? Knowledge. The first thing I say is I always like to call it peace to the God. Peace to God. I always like to say that knowledge is an idea of awareness. So I said here, I'm going to break it down. I write it complex because I don't want you to be a parrot. Okay? I want to use this as a tool and not necessarily as an answer sheet. And that's why I write my plus lessons sometimes very complex. So I said knowledge is an idea of awareness. This is what I like to call it. So I say the actual fact, the truth that is the foundation of all that is further. It is a truth beyond like and dislike or good and bad. It merely is. It is the truth that all that is infinite can be expressed at each and every moment in a finite fact. Okay? That means this, right? That means that it is not a statistic. Okay? It is not something that will fluctuate as we go along. It is not information that will fluctuate with more variables. Knowledge is infinite, yet it is constantly known. Thus, each aspect of knowledge is a point of awareness. Right? Because when you say that's knowledge, right, that means you're looking at a particular thing. Even though knowledge is infinite, when we use the knowledge in the alphabet and we're building, we usually talk about a specific point. Okay? The greatest awareness is of self as God or earth, and as it is the point of origin, it is the idea itself, an idea of awareness that we must learn more of and live. So the greatest awareness is an awareness of self, the knowledge of self. Right? Take a moment to read what Rio said. To bring it back to the day's math, I ain't trying to disprove the unity of the two heads, but rather show and prove the contact and how each aspect must be comprised to attain. Show and prove the contrast and how each aspect must be compromised to attain balance. Yeah, definitely see that, God. You know what I'm saying? It's how you deal with it, though. You know what I mean? It really has the opportunity of your fluctuations with it. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let me go back. I haven't checked the YouTube because I have my plus lesson open in the browser here. Okay, is everybody following here? I see Sirius says, okay, I had read that. Okay, very good. Real hip hop. Are you talking about Godheads? I'm not sure what you're saying. Or if you're talking to someone else in the chat. Sirius said, freedom is not allow yourself to fall victim to the devil's solicitation nor lower desire. Okay, I see that. You see that? All right. Okay, let's continue with this. All right, let's continue with this. This is a build I would like to finish in this class session, though, only because it makes it simpler for you to go back and rewind YouTube. For those on the IG, this is good. I'm doing all my classes exclusively with this core routine. I've been doing them for weeks online on my YouTube channel, Sunez 7, the number 7. So you can go back and research. If you're on the IG and you're not going to stay too long, that's peace. It's no problem. My class in real life is just the same way in the classroom. You stay as long as you can for, I care more that you learn well in 30 minutes than learn poorly in 2 or 3 hours. But I am there for 3 hours every Thursday. Okay, and when we get back into school, for those that ask, I'm going to continue to have it on the YouTube so people can go back and research, and those that aren't really, you know what I mean? Real hip hop. A godhead is someone who only talks a supreme math jargon, as if that makes him true living. I always teach people to be able to teach all people. A lot of times, a lot of people think I keep it as simple as possible for people, so that way they can really get an understanding. You know what I mean? And that's the most important thing, that you get an understanding. Sometimes when we're speaking with the mathematics, though, as a cloaking device, those are where the builds aren't really that powerful. You know what I mean? Know your cipher. If you're building among the gods that know, then you build heavier. It's like with anything. It's like with anything. If people don't understand you, though, it's corny. You know what I mean? Because your life and your regular interactions with people are not a record. They're not a book. When I write articles, when I write books, I write them heavy because I want people to go back and play with them, decipher them, and have fun with them. Hopefully it would be fun. But when I'm talking to people straight up, they need to know what I'm saying. They need to know what I'm saying. I see you, Rio. Definitely got it. All right. I see you got it. We teach peace to all the parts of this. That's right. That's right. All the human families got it. Right? So now, Gregory, you sent me emails and I did not get back to you. I was really late with that. And I only got one off this whole week. So I'm going to go through them in details. I'm pretty sure you sent me some emails. And I want to send you some stuff. So I'll be getting to that, though. This was a very hectic week, though. A very hectic week. Now, wisdom. Wisdom, I say, is a diligent effort, usefulness. These are the catchwords that I use, So I describe it as the activation of knowledge is in our mind's diligent effort to work a usefulness of this idea, that idea that I'm calling a true idea of knowledge, right? Whether it's a creative idea or whether it's an actual true fact, okay? Right? Through study, contemplation, and application, right? Contemplation and application. That's what wisdom is. Through study, contemplation, and application, you are not only thinking about it, its use, but you are also practicing its use. The idea of awareness, right, that knowledge is explored for usefulness, and this uncovers the difference between mere information, flawed by perception and bias, and the truth of knowledge. That's what wisdom is. That's how I see wisdom. Okay? Right? Understanding them. Right? Remember I was saying before that I build the 1, 2, and 3 as the inner aspect, and then out of that inner, what is happening to complete that inner process of knowledge, wisdom, understanding? The understanding, the revelation of purpose. The inner workings of the supreme mind come to a point of insight when there is a diligent effort, that wisdom, to expose the usefulness of one's idea of awareness. This is understanding. A revelation of purpose where one now sees that this idea of awareness is indeed true and can and will be living. And this understanding is taken into what? The outside world, right? As your culture, right? And I say that culture of freedom, though, I liken it to interactive awareness. That is, this is the beginning of the outer expression of the Creator's creating creation. It is also the first degree that contains two words detailing it. Okay, let me build on this. Okay, let me see it. What is use? All right. All right. Culture, a way of life, the natural state of Allah, is the expression of one's understanding to the world that one is in. It is an interactive awareness, where now one's understanding, developed in the mind from an idea of awareness, knowledge, realized through a diligent effort exposing usefulness to, is now a living thing engaged with the people and environment one is in. The component of freedom emphasizes that culture, a life of expressed understanding, is the true key to freedom, as opposed to an unabashed drive to fulfill feelings of like versus dislike. Okay? Natural state. Okay? The expression of one's understanding to the world that one's in. So now the things that you do, what aspects of those things that you were doing is culture? So now you have a question. We've been protesting, we've been doing things. What aspects are our culture? Because in many respects, right, as far as a culture to the people, much of the aspects of protest are really asking someone else to do to give us justice that we feel that we deserve. See? So that doesn't make it completely whole submissive. The way I say it, it sounds very submissive. But in essence, so if it stays stagnant to just that, then it has become stagnant. Then it has become submissive. Okay? Like I keep saying, the actions, the organization of revolution is in the networking of the builders who will make programs and actual movements of action. And not just action to tell enemies or provoke enemies to do as we are demanding, but to also, to more so, provoke the things that we need to get done to be done. The societies that don't need to revolt are the societies and groups of people that are able to live out their way of life without impedance. See? So the real key is, how can we become completely effective in living our way of life? You see? This is something that people that are more well off or other ethnicities like to blame and belittle Black Americans, that they haven't taken the opportunities to develop their own way of life. You see? The truth is that it'll take a combination, you see? And that many times the protest is necessary because we have been led in these ways to have things impeded, to have things deliberately impeded, right? Someone could say all that they want. A Puerto Rican man, Puerto Rican woman, a Puerto Rican family can say all that they want. But at the end of the day, where they live, the island that they live in, though, is an actual colony. And there are things that will be taken and are taken away from them. You see? So the ability to know and understand the way of life that you intend to live doesn't always mean that you have the ability to live that culture. And this in lies, though, that part of the culture also has to take in the ability to share an understanding that is based into a culture that extends itself with great power. Right? And with that, I'm saying this. Power I call the propulsive influence. Power is the living usefulness of culture expressed. Okay? It is a propulsive influence that spreads throughout and is based on the depth of one's idea of awareness, the strength of one's diligent effort towards usefulness, and the quality of one's revelation of purpose. As power is a result of the culture expressed, then it just is. It is not a state to me, all right? It is not a state It is not in a state of refinement, but an expressed entity, a realization of culture, just as wisdom is of knowledge. What I'm trying to say here is that once power is expressed, it just is. You see? So it isn't power refinement where it is or it is just a statement. It is just the expression of your culture. So there is no refining of it. Okay? Now, if we talk about refinement in your power, then to me it's not in the way that people use it in the lesson or generally in language. It is basically the focus of power. So when we talk about refinement as, let's say, the focus of light becoming a laser, then I can see that being power refinement. Okay? In any other way, I don't see it. And that's why as a teacher, I don't really teach power refinement anymore, because it has been much more a problem to get away. So I have taught students, and then they still give me refinement and are really defining culture inside power. But power does not change. It is that. Power is not something that is being expressed and changing as you develop. Your culture is what you change. Your power is expressed each time that particular aspect of culture is changed. In other words, let me give it to you concrete. Okay? I don't know why it always comes to my head as an expression of culture, but Raekwon made Cuban Links. If he changes Cuban Links, he has Cuban Links the remix. Okay? Cuban Links dominating as a classic is the power of Cuban Links, Raekwon's Cuban Links album. If he changes Cuban Links or makes something else, he's made Cuban Links too. You see? The culture is the culture. It is that culture. When I made my book, The Filtered Real, it is that. It is that. Okay? If I make something else, though, it'll be a different book. Okay? So that's what I mean by that. And people don't build with power or refinement as refinement being a focus of that power, to remind us that power needs to be focused. You're not just walking out there and go, the black man is God. The Father never did that, because that wasn't his power. That is not the power of being a true and living God. Okay? So, with that said, right? That's why I am not against people having refinement in us, even my own students. I don't use it because it has not been an effective teaching tool the way I would hope it would be. I have done more altering of the building on the other degrees to make sense of power refinement as a focus of power, or reminding yourself that power is focused and not just blaring out Cyclops, X-Men Cyclops without his glasses and stuff, right? The refinement would be those glasses, but people are defining power refinement, the refinement in the power, as the laser's quality, and that's not it. The laser is the laser. That is the power. You cannot change Cyclops' eyeball laser. You can only focus it though, and that's, right? So I built on it with music and as nerdily as possible with the little comic book knowledge that I have. You know what I mean? I wish I had more comic book knowledge, to tell the truth. But as power is a result of culture expressed, that it just is. Okay, I read that. If one's power is to be refined, then it must be at its earlier stage, particularly if we're using the definition of refinement that is insinuated, suggested in the 18th degree in the 1 to 20, or the general definition. Now, as most English words, refinement has many interpretations, one which includes focus. That is, the power is always refined because it is always focused towards a specific purpose. It comes from a culture of understanding, so it has its purpose revealed and now manifested. Okay? Now, in this plus lesson, I go on and on about the history. When you learn from me, you learn the history of also refinement as well. Okay? I'm not going to read all that, because I just want you to get the principles of supreme mathematics. Okay? And I want to bog you down. Okay? But refinement is something that was not added by the Father directly, but it was insinuated in the build to many of the gods in Mecca at a certain particular time. You know what I mean? Peace to the God, working Supreme Sunez Allah, peace to the God. Right? And so because refinement was given that way, not everyone bare witness to refinement. And the truth was that, again, I want you to get the reasons why the Father said they need refinement in their power to those gods like Umala that said that he heard that. It was because the Father saw the supreme mathematics as a teaching tool. So if it wasn't working properly, then he was going to have them amend it and deal with it in a certain way that would really work. Okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that he was saying that power is the degree. On the tapes, to the majority of all the gods that I've ever built with, power has always been on its own by itself. You know what I mean? But if you have refinement in your power, though, understand, though, that there is a great difficulty in merging the words culture and refinement. Remember, this is all one flow. But when we build on the mathematics, we are breaking down creation and our nature of being creators into specific separated aspects. So we don't want to we want to make them as uncluttered as possible. All right? It's a comment here. I don't want it to pass by. Oh, Kasim said you can have power and not use it in a refined way. Some people abuse power. Power can abuse energy, so it needs refinement. Now, Kasim, my answer to that, right? I hope you're still on. My answer to that, though, when someone says that, people could use power incorrectly, that's not what power means, though, in the supreme mathematics. You got to understand, though, that power doesn't just mean Dr. Doom abilities. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm still in this cartoon shit, right? What power means, though, is the expression of what? A culture of actual understanding. Understanding that is shown, proven that by the knowledge that was wisdom. In other words, the culture is right and exact to even get to power. You see? Because if we talk about power that isn't refined in that manner that you're saying, then that means that that power was never really power anyway. You see? So when we get up to this thing being right and exact, that power will be expressed properly. Because we what? Write our history in advance. And if you write your history in advance, then the actual what? Not only the things that you create, but the expected power and how you will deal with it will be expressed. See? Now, it doesn't work always as clean as I would say. See what I'm saying? As clean as I would say. So we build and we go back and we look through. And what I'm telling you is the ideal of what power is. The ideal of what power is. And not necessarily what power ends up becoming, what people's reality ends up becoming, how we build and we look back and go, oh, damn, I didn't do that based particularly on supreme mathematics or whatnot. Right? We build and we see flaws, we see this, we see that, of course. Right? But when we define supreme mathematics, we define it by its ideal. And that isn't the ideal. You see? That isn't the exact definition. Okay? Now, equality. Once that power is expressed, and you were seeing all this, you were what? And now in a proper position to see where your creation has what done. You are creating, you are manifesting with that as a culture of your understanding of that true idea that was used. And now what? It has propelled out there, and now you have reached the point of what? You've reached a point where it has given you what? An equality. You are in a proper position of balance. What I say is what? An outer expression of understanding's peak with one's equality, where one is now in the proper position to see the validity and complete reality of one's idea. It is here where one's lived understanding has powerfully placed one in the position to see anew with balance and temperament. Okay, temperament means resolve, like a calm. You know what I mean? You really see it and see what it's become. Once you reach that stage, now that fruit stage of the supreme mathematics comes into play. Okay? And that stage is what? The true and living God. 7, God. And understand that when the earth builds, she reaches this point of what? What I call a reaffirmation of rejuvenation. You know what I mean? It's a rejuvenation of reaffirmation. You're rejuvenating yourself. You're recharging yourself. You're giving yourself new life. In this process of life, by what? Reaffirming who you are. So I say the fruit of supreme mathematics begins with the self. One cannot become the God or the earth. One already is. Here, one's lived understanding has powerfully put one in a position to see with a heightened sense of balance, equality. This is where one is realizing that the life of creating is an act of reaffirming oneself, realizing deeper who we are again and again. And that's, if you're still on, this is what I consider enlightenment, this continuous enlightenment. These endless points of enlightenment are the natural rejuvenation of self, a recharging element that heals and reinvigorates one by merely being self through creating. This is the creator realizing itself creating. Okay? And that allows you to what? Build and destroy. What I call universal change. Okay? I call universal change. The creation of anything is the use of one's idea for understanding and living it out powerfully for a sense of balance. And this balance is not only rejuvenating self, but it actually reveals that we are also universally changing all of reality. To build is to universally change the reality and destroy the previous reality that is no longer relevant. Okay? Probably the most simple once we've gone through all this, right? Probably the most simple. Take a peek back into the chat. See if everybody is doing it on this crew. Alright? Okay. Alright, so no questions on the social media. Let's continue. Alright. Well, once we build and destroy, we have born something. What I call elevated fulfillment. Everything is supreme. Okay? You choose what you do. Everyone can choose things. But these are choices that are far deeper, more profound, more deeper. Okay? When we reach born and elevated fulfillment, it's the most distinct point in supreme math. The fruit of all things is that there is an elevated fulfillment of the self and the people and vast environment around us. When we notice what is born, we are at a point of seeing the creation from the creator ourselves vividly. Okay? It is very rare in supreme mathematics that you can pinpoint something. And the truth is that born is the most easy to pinpoint once we apply it to something. Okay? Right? Jasim says, I was looking up force in physics and it said it has magnitude and direction. Okay? Wouldn't power be the magnitude, right? The intensity, right? And refinement be the direction. In many ways, you can define it as that, and I accept that definition completely. Okay? But understand that the culture of this knowledge of self is often using the definition of refinement that has been insinuated in 120 lessons. Okay? And that's why I've had a big problem with it. You know what I mean? It hasn't led to people seeing it that way in a useful manner in my years. And remember, the most easiest way to teach is the best way. Now, once you reach that, you reach what? Knowledge add on a cipher. It's a good understanding, Joe Jesse. I like you thinking like that. I love you thinking like that. That's great. Now I reach cipher. In our building, it would be knowledge add on a cipher, right? So I say it is infinity, simply infinity. The principle of cipher is the nature of Allah's infinity, that there is an infinity of the mind, and this can only be if there is an infinite creation understood through these distinct degrees points. Okay? The cipher is the principle of mind always having the form to create anew. And that's why we always say it's a person, place, or thing. There's always an operation that can be identified in this. Just as knowledge may represent the essence of Allah, ever instigating all creation, we must also see cipher as the original woman in the earth, endlessly furthering creation via her form of self. Okay? So we can see it that way as well. Okay? I'll take a quick pause here to see if anybody has any questions on IG or in the classroom, the official digital classroom on YouTube. Because I know that was a lot of heavy stuff, you know what I mean? And I tried to make it as heavy and concentrated as possible. You know? Let's see, forget the God's righteous name. Yazid. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Yazid. I don't know if it's Yazid, right? Because it's an ID. Yazid. Definitely my honor to share those things with you. Let's make sure we use it well. Now, we always teach a little bonus here. I made a children's mathematics build. You know, a lot of us are older, okay, and in the way this culture was taught, though, was taught for the babies, though. So, to you to get the perspective of teaching in the babies, though, I have little like a way to build on it with the babies, though. Okay, so we go through knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, power, equality, God, build, born, and cipher for the children. So I had it like this, right? I'm going to read it all, and then I'll read it with the mathematics, so you see the flow first. So it goes like this. It goes, get it, use it, got it, live it, show it, share it, are it, change all, finish all, begin again. So knowledge is to get it. Wisdom is to use it. Understanding is got it. Like I got it. For is to live it. Culture is to live it. Power is what? Show it. Equality is share it. Right? God is are it. You are it. Build is change all. Born is finish all. Cipher is begin again. Right? The reason I wrote begin again is because we usually build with knowledge add on a cipher. So once you hit cipher, you're never really hitting cipher, you're hitting knowledge add on cipher. You know? So the cipher by itself symbolizes all the reality of beginning again. And the actual way you would use it would be knowledge add on a cipher 10, and that would always be you begin again. Right? Probably the most difficult one here is the equality. Share it. What I mean is this, right? When you reach equality and you reach that proper position, what you have done is you've powerfully extended your culture. And what happens is that you have completed the reality of sharing it. But you've also shared with yourself its reality. Because you didn't really know what it was until you actualized it. You actualized it as a way of life. So that's why I say 6 is share it for the children. Once they live it and they show it, they are truly sharing it. Okay? And it's a combination. Because things have to be shared in complete equality. All right? So that's peaceful, friends. Now we're at 9:36. This class ends at 10. I would like to take some time to build about anything that you want to build on. You know what I mean? I know that everybody doesn't always go and read the Peace Course column that I'm writing in the 5percentmedia.com. But even for those of us, those of you that are really studying in this class, take a moment to read that, because I'm giving perspectives on the classroom that might be useful to you, especially some of you that have students, you know what I mean, and are here learning on a different level, learning as a student, learning on different levels. Okay. The last piece I wrote was focusing on what we were talking about last class, which definitely is kind of a companion to this class session, because I was talking about the inner revolution. Okay, the idea of building yourself up, building the physical up, and making sure that you were developing yourself in a supreme level. Okay, and of course that wonderful triangle of power that I was talking about. Okay, for now, email me. Everyone has to email me, okay? Because I will forget. So if you need something from me, email me. Don't just tell me here, because I won't get to it, okay? But I do that on purpose as well. Not just because I'm busy, but I want to challenge you to actually make me do stuff, okay? When I was learning with Sunez Allah, I always bothered him, okay? I want you to get used to bothering Sunnis, okay? Bothering me about building and all that kind of stuff, all right? Okay. Is the 5% Media on Facebook or a website? It's a website. Let me give you the link. I'll literally give you the link of the last column, okay? A specific class, okay? The specific column of the last class session that we had. But the 5% Media site has all types of great articles to read through. And in fact, some of the articles in there I have to read through because there's some interesting stuff that, my partners in writing wrote that, is intriguing. All right, so it's definitely a resource for all of us. All right, so understand that what I shared with you is a build on supreme mathematics I have worked on for years. Okay, and the same should be for you, hold true for you, if you're really developing this and studying, and really thinking about this for a long time, and really trying to see, and really trying to see how every day you develop a different insight to it. You know what I mean? What things that you can say about it, how you can come up with a better understanding. Born Eternal Lord Allah. Not sure if I've seen you on here. You haven't been here for a while. Why do you use? I'm assuming you already use. Why do you use the term spirituality when some guys are equated to religion? I don't think I used the word spirituality today. So you must be referring to another time I said the word spirituality. I will say this though. Oftentimes I use the word spirituality when I do this. Okay, Born? When I introduce students that are new in the classroom and I tell them that once you start talking about God, once you start talking about who the Creator is, you are already talking about spiritual matters. Okay? Spiritual matters. Because you're already talking about things that people will perceive as spiritual matters. So you're in that umbrella. Right? But spiritual is the reason I don't like spiritual because it's a very co-opted word. So it's a word that other people can use and flip and really, do their own deeds to it, and really just establish their religion as an unorganized aspect. You know what I mean? So a lot of people use the word spirituality when what they're really doing is doing religious practices that are unorganized, that aren't that popular. Okay. I hope that answers the question, because I don't remember the specific moment that I had said spirituality, particularly. So I can only explain how I usually use it. I may have used that, in a way that you felt was wrong or caused confusion. Though. So let me know. Justin, peace. I was wondering if you had any suggestions on incorporating the month into one's daily study. I don't get that complex with it. I like to keep things simple to today's mathematics. But I like you to have, I think the best way to incorporate all of this, though, is realizing that you're writing your own history. So every month you should have particular goals and going back and seeing each month as a consistency of development. And that's why having very persistent goals, a very persistent calendar of approach, and then also, seeing how you work all that. That's really important. You know what I mean? All right. Supreme said, spiritual, that's how I see this. That's some of the process I be to be exact. Right. We end up, yes. Okay, born eternal. Yeah, I didn't want to confuse anyone like that. You know what I mean? But it's not a word like born eternal. I wouldn't answer someone and say, this is my spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Um, I would tell people like, these are my thoughts on spiritual matters, because they consider spiritual matters about God, about Creator and creation. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say I have a spirituality. I would always say what I was taught and what I was shown and proven is what we do, and I would say that I have a culture. Okay, so that's what I would say. You know, and I see where you're going with it, Supreme Divine. Okay, all right. Real Hip Hop said, "Are you going to get into last week's homework?" Wow, I even forgot about last week's homework. Okay, last week's homework was make a list of criteria what Allah, the true and living God, must have to be such. Well, I was building a supreme math, so mathematics is one of those criteria. Okay, the true and living God. If the true and living God is to be the true and living God, whatever. Let's say we're talking about anybody. Their spook, their Jesus Christ, their mystery. You know, their mystery, Allah. You know that is just a indescribable entity. What language would they always express everything in? Well, then what language is everything that has been able to be expressed in? Okay, right? And that would be supreme mathematics, particularly the language of mathematics that expresses the answers and insights and ideas of all the other sciences that we have. Okay, so that importance of supreme math cannot be discounted. Okay, Real Hip Hop says my answers: 1. Study 120 and apply it to life. Okay. I see that, but when I said the criteria, let me explain the assignment though, because it's an endless assignment, right? The assignment is, this is going to be the homework that we continue with though, and I'll copy and paste it in the chat here, as well as the notes post class. You know, this is the homework assignment. I'm going to read it for the IG audience. Make a list of criteria. I need a list of things that have to be checked off of what Allah, the true and living God, must have to be such. Okay? Right? So, there might be things that you are saying you're going to do to be the God. But what I'm saying is like, to everyone in the universe, what is the criteria that they say God is? So you'll have criteria for you, but I also want you to put criteria for those that say, like, let's, for example, you say, what is the language of the creator and creation? That's a criteria. What is it? To see if it's the original man and to see if it's anything else. Does he have, here's an example. Does he have does he have all of the faculties, right? In other words, does he have all of the chemical elements of the universe within him and within his control? So this would be answered with the sciences of biochemistry and whatnot, okay? Chemistry, biochemistry, right? And the abilities also would, kind of rely on physics and even quantum physics with that too. So we have that too, right? What would be more criteria? Criteria of the naysayers, those in religion, right? Let's say if someone says, look, Jesus Christ can fly and he can walk through walls and he can do anything. So he basically goes beyond the laws of physics. So then now you say it's a criteria. How does he meet that criteria? Why doesn't he meet that criteria? Why doesn't he not have to fly through walls? See? This is what I mean by criteria. The things that people say and the things that you say should be, and how do you debunk or prove, what you see. Okay? Supreme Divine. So today's degree, I don't know what ITE is. So if you had started writing something, you didn't finish. So today's degree is about complete day. Okay, that's a little bit incomplete there. Supreme Divine, I see the way you posted. Make a complete thought. You know what I mean? and then put it in there. That way I can get what you're saying. Even write it somewhere else, so that way you can just paste it in there. It'll be a complete thought. A lot of times, when I'm writing on social media and stuff, sometimes I construct those posts somewhere else, like a Google Doc or something, and then I throw it in there. I like to be writing exactly everything. You know what I mean? That's okay, Supreme Divine. It's a classroom. We fumble, we stumble, we say wrong things. As a teacher, I re-explain, I stumble myself, right? We're all in this together, right? Okay. See, the point is, though, is to develop builders that can be revolutionary warriors that can revolutionize a more righteous society, a more righteous living environment for the people immediately around you. You see? How can we do that? How do we do that? This is the science. It's not so complex. And that's the joy of it. Okay? No, that's okay, Real Pop 260. That's okay. Right? That's okay. Again, even if you had done the assignment, it's very difficult because some of it is to try to get the answers. Some of it is just to begin and make the list. So the people that don't bear witness that you're the God, what would it be the things they say that why you're not God? Put that in a criteria to try to debunk it, because they just gave you criteria. When they say you're not God because of blank, 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 they gave you criteria of what they see as God. See, you have to be able to tackle these, but also find scientists, right? So, a criteria. We say the original man is God, okay? So one of the first criteria is like, how does someone that has a physical birth and will have his physical will expire, how is he God? You see? That's peace. So if you do it like that, then now what would you say? You see what I'm saying? Right? What would be the criteria? Okay? Okay? So when you think of the criteria, you think of the sciences. Okay? How can the sciences show and prove God? What are the things that you think have to be done? How are you God through all time and space? How are you God through time if you expire physically? You see? I give you a little clue. One of the answers is that if we think logically, see, now logic goes into this exercise as well. God can't be God if he's only God of the infinite. If he's out there in the bubbles of the nether regions and he's throwing thunderbolts and all that, he's not really a master of this world because he cannot live in it. He cannot thrive in it, and he cannot be of all things. You see? So then now you say, is God because he is outside of him? He has to be outside of himself, outside of this creation. And the thing is, though, is that I teach that God is the creator inside of his own creation, creating, right? And ever changing the reality of his creation. See? So we are defining this, and then now when people say he's outside of ourselves, I have quantum mechanics, I have cosmology, I have more sciences on my side to show and prove what I'm saying, and they have none. Okay? They have possibilities. Okay? I know I could throw thunderbolts, though. You know what I'm saying? So, right? But let me tell you something. When you think that there aren't people that go, oh, look, strike me now, God. You don't think that, or God will strike you down for saying such thing. You don't think that there's a vast majority of people that really believe that? That they will be struck down by some type of evil that will beset them as they move? Right? Right? That's one phrase. Hopefully that's why, the class now has some rewind capabilities. Maybe we could go back and we can analyze that and put your head around that. Hanif, all of these things come into play. You know what I'm saying? All these things come into play. You know? And I see this, I've never really done the live this long, but it's already telling me I have about 10 seconds left though. So for the four people that are on though, I want to say peace. This class is over in about 7 minutes, so I'm not going to log back on the IG. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. All right. So do that homework assignment will be also too. I need you. I want you to start thinking about what's going to be the next generation. What are you going to give the next generation? I want you to start thinking like, how can you be more efficient with all the things that you do? You know, right? And you guys are really quick with that. Good stuff. Good stuff. But we only have a few minutes left. I just want to make sure that everyone, can ask a question that I could get to, and I can answer in these last minutes. Okay. And again, the email is sunez97@gmail.com. The brothers that have been and sisters that have been contacting me, I appreciate it. What degrees were you looking? Have you emailed me, Real Hip Hop? Because I forget what, everyone that I'm building with here is ready to get Supreme Math and Alphabet if they are a newborn. They just have to email me. Okay. 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 That's only because I can't really. I don't know everybody's righteous name or email name, so I don't always attach and remember like that. You know. Definitely. Definitely. What are some other things here? Okay. Just remember this, right? As we get ready to end the class session, the amount of challenges never has to waver. The amount of hell that we go through never has to waver. There's no guarantee that it has to waver. But each aspect, each intense event will always end. Okay? So there's always a moment to regroup. There's always a moment to build better. You know what I mean? Take these opportunities, any opportunity of calm and resolve to really build. Okay? See, the most efficient path that I've found is that in times of chaos is when you're calm. And in times of peace is when you are intense. What I mean by intense, though, is that in those times of calm and peace, you are actually building as intensely as possible to get greater, get stronger. You know what I mean? Manifest more creations. That way, in these times of chaos, though, you are not led astray by the times, but you can command the times and be useful to the people that really need help, that really need guidance. And for so many of us, those will be our families, though, people that are out there, and just good young people that they haven't had the opportunity to get this knowledge in any kind of form or fashion. or get anything. Because that's what we're about. Right? That's what we're about. Okay. No, Gregory. The more that we build together, the more that we will build on that level. Okay? All right? There's too many people in the world to just make it to people that can make it. For there to be gods and earths all over the planet. For there to be people that acknowledge yourself everywhere. And there has to be a way to teach and adapt to teach everywhere. You know what I mean? Just like we're doing here. You know? That's right. That's right. You know what I mean? But peace always knows how to navigate and thrive and re-establish itself through war. You know what I mean? And righteousness knows no bounds. Okay? So, are there any questions that anyone has? Anything that you want to ask me? Know that I'm on the social media, of any of the social media. I'm on the Facebook, the Twitter, Sunez7 on Twitter, Sunez by itself on Instagram, and my righteous name mixed in with my honorable name, Edward Sunez Rodriguez, on the Facebook, which, by the way, was my first use of the my righteous name when I was publishing in magazines. So you'd see, after 1999, you see magazines, Edward Sunez Rodriguez, if you have old crates, old source magazines and stuff, and whatnot. But, yeah, and I think Supreme Divine, I think 9 meant the mathematics, I guess, I'm assuming. I don't know why we're talking about guns particularly now, right? Remember, speaking of guns, this revolution is about learning to use all of your tools. So use everything, okay? Use everything from learn your martial arts. If you're not learning martial arts, get yourself physically able to practice a martial art, and then find somebody. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to protect your family, learn how to build up, learn a new trade, learn new skills, learn to keep yourself physically healthy, physically fit. Okay? Twitter is Sunez7. Okay? But use all your tools, though. Okay? And one of those tools, even, and if you haven't voted, if you've never voted, do that. Do that. Because you should be learning who local politicians are. You should be learning who all these people are. Okay? That's all important. Okay? It's definitely power. All right. So with that said, peace to everyone. Peace to the gods and earths. Peace to all the righteous people. Peace to all the uncivilized people. Peace to everyone that has honored me, with even watching any of this and doing analysis to any of these classes all these years. It's an honor that with all these hectic times, so people are actually taking the time to do analysis to any of the things that I have to share. That's a blessing. That's an honor, and trust that when I'm not around, I'm doing my best to honor the building that will come forth from all this. All right? So keep building, all right? And master yourselves, and then master the environments around you. In that order, not the other way around. Peace.